some space down here.
Yeah, this could go really bad or really good.
If you're group of three, you can sit right there. All right, but how's everybody doing? That's good to hear. Welcome to the Animation Academy. My name is Sarah. I'm a Disney artist here. I'm going to be teaching you how to draw Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas. We're drawing not only a dog, but a spooky dog, which is like my two favorite combos, other than alien dogs, which is Stitch, but that's the same thing. Anyway, up at the top is my friend Thomas. He's helping out some folks. But if you do need something throughout the class, just let us know by raising your hand. We can get you a new pencil. We can get you one if you dropped it and it fell away. We can get you that one. But if you do need to leave early, up here at the very top where you first came in, these three doors are your exit doors. Thomas is showing you that if you push that door open, you can leave at any point in time during the class. This class is a rough drawing class. The one thing we can't get to is we can't get to erasers. We don't use them in this class. So we start off nice and light, just like Disney animators do, and we only darken up the things that we want to keep by the end of our drawing. Zero is a pretty, he's one of our easier characters here because he's just like a floating sheet. So you can have him flowing in any way that you want. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine because he's constantly moving. He's always going to be in a different form. He never looks the same from frame to frame. So just keep everything super nice and light. I'll let you know when to darken things up. Are you ready? Yeah. All right, let's start off with a circle about the size of a ping pong ball. We just want to go, I'm going to find the middle of my page here, but I'm going to go slightly over to the left. And this is where I'm going to add in this small circle, like a golf ball, ping pong ball, keeping it super nice and light. Once I have in this circle, I'm going to add in right underneath this little U shape. Kind of looks like a little light bulb right now. That's going to be his collar. Now from his collar, his entire body kind of flows. Like I said, he's like a little tissue, like a little handkerchief. So I'm going to start to add in this stretched out S going up and over to the right. And then from the far left-hand side of that collar, I'm going to add in more like a stretched out backwards C. And you want this to kind of point towards the bottom left of your page. So it kind of looks like you have a squid right now on your page. Now from the bottom of that stretched out C, we're going to start to create a stretched out U. This creates a corner. This is the corner of the sheet. This is one of Zero's paws. And then as I continue this line over here on the right, I'm going to stretch it into a stretched out S. But I also want it to blend into the back, and that's what creates Zero's tail. Feel free to also add in like a little curly Q over here on the end, just kind of adds a little bit more Tim Burton like nods to your drawing. But the body just looks pretty flat. It doesn't look like it belongs to like Zero, or it has like a lot of Zero's like more, you know, the body that he has. So I want to draw the other corner of the sheet here. I'll add in a stretched out C this time. And I'll bring that stretched out C right back to the original stretched out C. So it kind of looks like a shark fin shape hanging out over here. So now we can see a little bit more of where Zero's body is going to go. But all my lines are really nice and light right now. Nothing's really darkened up yet. So I want to take the time to go back over the lines that I really like about his body. And I'm going to darken these up so I can see these a little bit more. And right now, do you see how this line just pops forward against all these others? This is exactly what we want from a rough sketch. We're only going to darken up the things that you like. If you want to adjust something, that is okay. You can adjust it while it's nice and light to make it exactly like how you want to. Like for example, down here with this bottom corner of his sheet, I was trying to figure out which line I like the most, but I ended up liking this one over here. But you can see all those other lines are still there. They're kind of little ghostly forms of them now. Did you get that pun? Thanks. Thank you for the force laughter. All right, I'm going to keep going around. I'm going to keep locking in the entire body shape for my Zero. But while we're doing this, we're going to play a little bit of trivia. Let's see how much all of you really know about The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, this film was a poem before it ever was a movie. And in the poem, there were only 3 named characters. There were other characters, but they didn't have names at the time. Does anyone want to take a guess at which 3 characters were in the poem? Jack, absolutely. It's his mid-death crisis, so it makes sense. No other guesses?
Sally.
Oh, that's a good guess, but it's not Sally. Sally's one of the better editions of the movie. Zero, yeah, absolutely. You know, without him, Jack couldn't get off the ground. This is kind of like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for Jack. And there's one other one. He's super important to the holiday of Christmas. Yeah, Santa Claus. Oogie Boogie's a good guess. But Oogie Boogie, the Mayor, Sally, those were all characters that were added to the film. In fact, there were over 80 characters that were added to the film of The Nightmare Before Christmas. So now that you have the body here sketched in, we're going to start moving to the top where we start to see Zero really come to life. I think Tim Burton just really likes dachshunds. Dachshunds are wiener dogs because every film that he has, there's always some sort of dachshund in that film. And you can tell that he's a dachshund because he's got a long, long snoot. So I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side of my circle. I'm going to add in this little dots. And I'm going to connect that dot with the circle just by adding in a light U shape. I'm going to go back to the dot. I'm going to add in another U shape, but this one's going to be a little bit lower. So this creates the top muzzle for my Zero. And then over here by the bottom, I'll kind of even add in a little rainbow here just to show that Zero is smiling, because Zero is a cutie pie. He's a cutie patootie. That's why he's always smiling. He's always looking cute. He's always looking after Jack as well. That's my favorite part too. All right, I'm going back. I'm darkening up these lines for the upper muzzle, but we want to give him a lower muzzle just to show that, you know, he has this open mouth smile and he's just really happy to be around, especially around all of you. So what I'll do is, now that I have this lower portion, or the lower portion of the upper muzzle locked in, I'm going to go right here from the smile line. We're going to add in another kind of like triangular shape. This one's going to be a little bit shorter. It's not quite as long, because the lower muzzle is always just a little bit shorter than the upper muzzle, no matter what dog, unless it's a bulldog. Different breed though. And then just to make it look a little bit more 3D and not as flat, I'm going to go to the very edge of the lower muzzle here, and I'm going to pull up another kind of stretched out U, but this time I'm going to the other side of the circle. So you can see now that there's like a little triangle section on the inside of his mouth. And this is something I encourage everyone to shade in, so that way you can see that, you know, it is going to the back of his mouth. It's not like a window or anything like that. It's just somewhere that we're not seeing a lot of light. I'm going to close off the top curve of his head shape here just by picking my favorite lines from the circle. I'll even darken up the collar down here towards the bottom. You can even shade in the collar too, because he's got a lot of white, so this can add just a little bit more like tone and just shading to it, just to kind of break up the space. But as you can see, he's kind of looking a little spooky, and it's not in a good way, just because he's missing his eyes. So I'm very lightly adding in this kind of like stretched out U just to give him an eye line. We're going to place his eyes right on top of this line. His eyes are very similar to Jack Skellington's, where he just has solid holes, or like solid black eyes. And this shows that, you know, he's kind of a play off of the, you know, I don't know if anyone ever took like a bed sheet and like cut holes in it to pretend to be a ghost. It's kind of a little bit of a play off of that, where like, you know, people used to do that. Like back on TikTok, where it was like, you know, that like ghost song and everyone dressed up like that for Halloween with the pumpkin heads. It's kind of very similar to that, you know, that play off of it. It's very big in the 70s. I'm adding in the other eye. You can see how this eye is just a little skinnier, just showing that, you know, we're not seeing so much of it, giving a little bit of perspective to our Zero. But he's right now looking a little too much like a ghost sea lion. I want him to look more like a ghost dog. So I'm going to add in his ears. His ears are like tassels. They're like S shapes that go above each eye. And you can have these ears kind of, again, they don't have to match mine. As long as you have like this stretched out S, you're going to have the flow of them. Because after all, like these are flowing just like his body. Like it almost looks like he's always near a fan because of how like they always are moving, even when he's standing still. So it's just something to keep in mind as you're sketching these in. Now to make them look less like pieces of, like almost like pieces of plastic and more like fabric, I like to draw in these little lines here by the ears. You can even draw these lines. These are like folds of the fabric. You can even draw them where like all that fabric bunches up by the collar. Just kind of gives a little bit more to your sketch, makes him look like this. Now we're only missing one final thing for our Zero. It's the most iconic part, I think, about him because he's just so plain, but this one little pop of color adds the difference. You know what we're missing? Yeah, his nose. You know what his nose is? That's a little pumpkin. It's a little jack-o'-lantern. So this is where you can add in like a little spooky little little face on your jack-o'-lantern, or you can change it up. I've seen a lot of different noses throughout the years while drawing Zero. I've seen like little hidden Mickey noses. I've seen churro noses. I've seen also like turkey leg noses. Depending on the holiday, sometimes people put Easter eggs or what's it called, little Christmas trees. So it's up to you what you want to sketch in. Now for the nose though, to keep it classic, I'm adding in this little stub up at the top just to show that it is a pumpkin. And then I'll give my little lantern like a little spooky, like happy spooky face. I have this like little headcanon that like Jack once a year picks a tiny little pumpkin from like this mini clan of pumpkins in Halloween Town to be the honor to be like the pumpkin on Zero's nose. Again, I don't think, this is probably not real, this is just what I think. In this world, if it were to exist, like, you know, he picks this tiny little pumpkin and his name is Perry, and his whole entire family is proud of him. Like, my son is Zero's nose. That's it though. Once you have in his little nose, that's all you need for your very own Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas. One thing I like to do is Zero's nose glows, so I like to add in these little C shapes around just to show that it's glowing nice and bright. You can also even add in some shadow because, you know, Zero, he always floats everywhere. He hardly ever touches the ground. So this just kind of adds a little bit more ambiance to him. But once you're done, the final and last thing left to do is just don't forget to sign your name somewhere down at the bottom.